I want to really just talk about one last thing. In parentheses, before we go on, I just want to say that I don't exactly agree with you about the issue of who is Joe Biden. To me, Joe Biden is a guy that has been for a long time trying to shrink Israel, trying to weaken Israel, and Obama's presidency that pushed for the Iran deal had him as a vice president. And
Yeah,
so
look. He not only was he vice president, he sold the Iran deal. But you have to understand. Let's be fair here. I think we have to really be fair because the cause of Israel is justice and truth. Biden has been in the Senate for like half a century, and he has been a very pro-Israel senator. I remember meeting him at AIPAC, probably in the late '80s, early '90s, several times, and he was always warm, and he's always a pro-Israel guy.
whatever, who cares about that
No, no, no.
warmness?
But one
Everybody's
second.
always talking about his
Hang on a
warmness.
second.
Who
Hang on. Hang
cares?
on. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on one second. Give me 1 second here.
Sure.
You have to do. You said before about gradations of anti-Semites. That I'm not going to get into, at least for now. But I will do gradations of Israel support. It was Joe Biden, Donald Trump? Absolutely not. But no one was Donald Trump. No one
Right.
supported Israel the way Trump did. Was Joe Biden even George W. Bush? No. No, George W. Bush was a more pro-Israel. But was he infinitely better than Obama? Absolutely. Did he feel as vice president that he couldn't make policy on his own? He had to be loyal to the president? Yeah, and maybe he was right. I mean, I can't argue with that. I will say that Biden went to Israel like 5 days after the attack. It was a war zone. It wasn't all that safe for an American president. And he hugged Bibi and he didn't make, political stuff. And you can't forget stuff like that. And then he
Shmuley, I'm
armed Israel.
sorry. I love you,
No, no,
and I love I
Yishai,
love I love 95% of what you say, but that was a foil. That was a faux action. That was a bear hug in order to later on shrink Israel. He's an Israel shrinker. He's an Israel shrinker and in the power of our enemies. I don't care if he hugs us at day number 5. It means nothing to me. You are the one that gave the money.
when you say he's an Israel shrinker, you have to accept that there's two parties in the United States. The whole Democratic Party is going in the direction of Israel shrinking and a Palestinian state. I'll tell you something. One of the people who has emerged as the strongest pro-Israel candidates for the presidency in the history of this country is Robert Kennedy Jr., who's one of my dearest friends. I actually love Bobby. I don't endorse candidates, so I'm not endorsing him, but as a person, I love him dearly. He spoke at my mother's first yard site a month ago when we did the Torah for Shani. Look, he's a great man. Yesterday, if you saw this incredible interview he did with the AP, he said that most countries, unlike Israel, would have just bombarded Gaza into the Stone Age, but Israel is the most moral country and has not done so. And he also says that the Jews are indigenous.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's exactly moral. Feeding our enemies, I don't think is exactly moral.
Okay, but let me make this.
But we try to
even,
be moral for
but
sure.
even
That's right.
but even Bobby says, two-state solution. And I've said to him many times, I said, you know what I love about you, Bobby? You always speak the truth. I don't agree with you on like the coronavirus vaccines, but you spoke your truth. You know that a two-state solution is not only immoral because it'll just create another terror state. You also know, and you also know it's impractical. And you know it's impossible. It's never going to happen. The Palestinians are never going to accept it. Israel's never going to do it. It's not, so why are you bringing up this over-roasted false chestnut that's never going to happen? You know it's not a solution. So when you speak about those who want to shrink Israel, they're just using platitudes that they know are nonsense. The Palestinians had a Palestinian state. It was called Gaza. Israel withdrew completely and utterly. I was in Gaza City with Al Sharpton in 2001. He went and had lunch with Yasser Arafat. I saw Yasser Arafat face to face. Everyone there, the Jews who came with me, said shake his hand and go and have lunch. And I said I would never do that. He has the blood of my hands on his people.
Again, I want to say to you that to me, President Biden is a man who has empowered Iran over and over again, which is the power behind the October 7th attacks.
That is true. That is true.
And that means that he's a friend of my enemy, and therefore he is an enemy in that sense.
You can't. But that's still look.
The point is that big hug meeting was not something that touched me. I'm like, this is a play. This is a play.
Yishai, let me tell you something. The strange thing about Israel and American presidents is that sometimes the people that we consider the worst presidents, and I by no means at all consider Joe Biden one of the worst presidents towards Israel. I do not believe that. But the ones who were true anti-Semites, Nixon. We know that Nixon was so anti-Semitic that he couldn't control. He knew he was being taped in the Oval Office, and half of the recordings is how much he hates Jews and how much Jews love money and how mean, even Billy Graham was caught on tape speaking about demonic Jews in the Oval Office.
But Nixon
But
was willing to
but in
help us,
1973,
right?
after October 6th, when there was a Jewish Secretary of State who was a refugee from Hitler, but wanted Israel to have a bloody nose in the hope that if Israel lost a little bit of the war, even ultimately winning, they would be more open to peace negotiations. While the Jewish Secretary of State delayed the airlift of arms to Israel, it was that anti-Semitic president that called up Kissinger and said, "Where the hell are the arms? Do it now." Ordered the Jewish secretary. I don't care. It's in your heart. Keep it there. Keep it in your rancid, poisonous
But
heart. But as long as you never show it, I don't care.
What if that anti-Semite that never shows it sends a ton of money to assassins, murderers, people developing a nuclear bomb, people who pay terrorists every single day, right? To the PA, to Iran. What if you just send money, but you give a big, beautiful, car salesman smile? Hi, I love you. And here's the money to the murderers right behind your back.
Then they are showing it. No. Then they are showing it.
No, they're not showing it. They're just doing it.
No, I'm talking about people who don't do. Look, what I'm saying is Truman wrote in his diary that Jews are more cruel than the Nazis. Did that hurt any Jew? No. Does he have a right to write it?
I was giving you an example about President Biden who supports our enemies.
Sorry. Yeah. Let me be clear. Biden
sends the money to the killers.
Biden's policies about Iran have been atrocious. Not as bad as Biden, as Obama, because you can't get worse than Obama's Iran deal. But he was second worst when it comes to Iran.
That's pretty bad.
No, actually third worst, because the worst, of course, is someone who was an anti-Semitic president, and that was Jimmy Carter.